I am a registered mediator in the state of Georgia.
So is that part of arbitration or?
So there are two different types of what are called alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Arbitration is when you hire a third party essentially to function as the judge and jury for the dispute. So if our two businesses are in a dispute, instead of going to court, you go to arbitration and you attempt, and the arbitrator will hear all the evidence, make a decision, and then that decision would be enforceable in any court.
And that's final. That's
final.
Yeah.
In fact, this is one of the things I tell my clients is that if you're going to go down the arbitration path, be aware that appealing an adverse arbitration decision is extremely difficult.
Right.
Whereas if you go to court and you lose, there is a court of appeals here in Georgia and, of course, in U.S. Court of Appeals where you can appeal and maybe you'll have some luck in doing that appeal. Arbitration, because of the way the law is set up, that's very difficult.
Why would anyone ever choose to do that then?
Well,
is it a cost thing?
It's a cost thing and a time thing. Let's start with time. It's almost certainly going to be quicker. Cost, 10 years ago I said it would be less expensive. Now I am actually advising a lot of my clients to stay away from arbitration provisions because you have to pay, in addition to paying your attorney to do the dispute, you are also going to pay the arbitrator and you're going to pay whatever firm is doing the management of the arbitration. So I honestly think it's more expensive for most closely held businesses. If you're a gigantic public corporation and you throw an arbitration provision into your contracts, you're doing it for a reason. And the reason is because you have an advantage in terms of scale. You can afford an arbitration provision. Right. Whereas if you're a closely held business, I advise them typically not to do it.
So when you're talking about mediation.
That's different. So mediation, let's say, again, I won't use you're in a dispute with another business. Oftentimes court, and it's in court, oftentimes courts will say you need to find somebody outside of the courthouse to help you try to resolve that dispute. Please go mediate the case.
Is that because of the complexity of it, or is it
could be for any number of reasons? Oftentimes court dockets are so full, the courts, especially on the civil side, want to say, can you guys go out and please try to reach a settlement.
Work this out amongst yourselves. Yeah.
And as a mediator, my training is to bring those parties into a room and say, look, what is it that you are upset about? How is it that we can try to solve this problem? And essentially do that for both sides. And then try to bring them together to resolve the case. 99% of business cases is ultimately come down to one thing: money.
Yeah.
So
there's not. I was going to ask you because you mentioned earlier about kind of being a psychiatrist almost, or how much of the mediation process is like
considerable.
Feelings and
considerable. The first part is get your story out there. Let's hear your story. Okay. Sometimes a good story doesn't make for a good legal case.
Right.
Sometimes it does, but oftentimes it doesn't. It's the law is a mysterious thing to most people on a regular basis. You may think that you have been deprived of some right or jerked around.
It's a moral issue. It's not necessarily a legal issue. Yeah,
but people want to have their stories heard.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And then part of it is to tell the party or to inform the party, well, this is what the law is. Here's what your challenges are. There is a premium to buying your peace. Wouldn't it be better, say, let's say you were able to resolve something in early 2019, wouldn't it be better to spend the time, energy, and money that you're spending on this dispute growing your business or doing something else? And then you leave it to the parties to decide whether or not they want to resolve it. I've had good luck and bad luck as a participant in mediations for my clients. I think there are some great mediators out there. I think there's some lousy ones.
So with the mediation, is it just you as the single attorney and the two parties, or do they have their own attorneys as well?
They typically have their own attorneys.
Okay.
And that's helpful because the attorneys can benefit you in terms of doing your mediation, in the sense that if they're good attorneys, they're telling their clients both the good things about their case and the bad things about their case.
And you need to consider this. And,
correct. Yeah. Here's your risk.
Right.
Here's the benefit. What do you think? Now, sometimes the chasm is too. I was in a mediation on behalf of a client a couple of months ago, and they were at X and we were at Y, and X and Y was pretty far off.
Right.
So it didn't settle. But then you can still, even after the mediation, go back and discuss settlement with the opposing party, and at least it's giving you some framework to work around.
So if that mediation doesn't work out at that point, they do go back to the court system usually?
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. And it just proceeds along on the docket, and you get to trial when you get to trial. And the counties in the Atlanta area vary considerably. Gwinnett's pretty fast. Fulton, who knows?
Right.
I quite honestly, we're here in Fayette County, I think. I don't know. Probably pretty quick. Some of the suburban counties are a little quicker. That being said, again, on a business dispute, it's typically about money. And then the question is, do you really want 12 strangers deciding your fate in a jury box?
Right.
Sometimes you do. I did a trial, I guess, in late 2017, and we were very successful with a jury. That being said, it could have gone the other way.